For my project, I chose to talk about the impact of emergency online teaching on the digital divide. This is something that I feel like everybody is super familiar with, and it's just a very interesting topic to be able to research and look into. So let's get into it. So, digital citizenship. This is a topic that I think is just super important to discuss. I personally knew what digital citizenship was, but I did not realize there was a title for it. So, I wanted to go ahead and start off my presentation with a definition of digital citizenship. Basically, what I've gathered from looking at different things is just one's ability and responsibility to utilize technology, the internet, devices, applications, the whole nine yards. Of course, this comes with a lot of different things, such as teaching online etiquette, learning about privacy and security. My dad actually works in cybersecurity himself, and my parents did a very good job as I grew up, kind of teaching me, hey, this is something that you can trust. This is credible. This is something that you don't need to put any information on because you can't trust it. And that's something that we have to teach our own students as well. Being a middle school teacher, it is super important that I teach things such as cyberbullying, and especially digital footprints. A lot of kids think that just because it's out there and then they delete it, that it's gone in a second, especially with things like Snapchat. So, being able to tell them, hey, that is not the case is very important, and it's something that they need to know at this point in their life. With that being said, one thing I wanted to focus on with this presentation is the element of educational disparities and the homework gap that kind of comes with online learning and the digital divide. So, the digital divide in itself is between those who have access and knowledge to modern technology and those who do not. This is something that, of course, we see in education all the time. But also, I know plenty of adults who struggle with this at work. My mom and a couple of my family members being some of those people. So, yeah, this takes place in educational and workplace settings. And the divide can be cultural, socioeconomic, or from lack of knowledge. So, the guiding question I kind of had was, how can we give students in the digital divide an equal opportunity at success? It's so unfair and so terrible for us to give assignments and homework online when a lot of students don't have access to all of those things. We are not helping them be successful and do well in life when we kind of do certain things like that. So, this is a question that I think is going to be very helpful for all of us. COVID-19 and a computer screen. I know we are all so very familiar with this. March 13th, 2020, the President of the United States declares a national emergency due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and life as we know it has changed. And it seems like 4 years later, it is still affecting us in some sort of way, but schools have been shut down. Pretty much everything has been shut down, and schools have transitioned to remote learning. I was a sophomore in college at this time. I was literally finishing up my last semester of basics before even getting into the education program. And wow, what a time it was. I know that it was super hard as a college student going straight to online learning. And, in college, you're pretty familiar with online classes, but it was very hard. It was very difficult. And I know that was especially the case for elementary and secondary students and teachers. My sisters were high school seniors, and I remember seeing all the challenges that came along with this. So, online learning takes place through Google Classroom, it takes place through Schoology, Zoom meetings, any way that teachers could teach their kids through a screen since we cannot meet in person. And I remember wondering then, what did students do if they did not have access to technology or internet? And so, this is kind of something that we talk about with the digital divide. I know that there are lots of students who, due to many, many different reasons, did not have those one-on-one Chromebooks. They did not have internet access at home. I know kids that were, trying to scramble and figure out everything that they could do. And so this is something that is super important. With that being said, my school, we have one-on-one Chromebooks, which is a blessing, but a lot of students did not have the Wi-Fi or the internet access to even do what they needed to do on those Chromebooks. I also work at a school that has a very, very diverse population. We're 7A. It's a very large school, and we have multiple kids. I mean, I think we're around 75% of our kids are EL learners, and that is a challenge in itself. A lot of these kids come from different countries out of the United States. And one thing that is a big challenge, whether it was during COVID times or now when it comes to technology, is these kids have never even been in school. They don't know how to even write their name in their own language. They've never seen a phone. They've never seen a computer And so, we're just trying to get them to learn how to write their name. Trying to figure out how to teach them technology is a whole different ballgame in itself. And so this is something that's super important to discuss as well with the digital divide, which is what leads me to my next slide, which is about online learner data. I found this chart very, very interesting. It's talking about the top 10 countries with the most online learners. Okay, and this is, I don't think it's a shock to us that the United States is number one, but I think this is something that's very important to look into. Mexico is on the list, but I have so many students from Haiti and Guatemala that, like I said, they've never seen a phone, they've never seen a TV or any sort of device. I mean, they usually come over with the clothes on their back and that's it. And that's all that they even knew in their own villages back home. So online learner data, I think, is very important. It's so important that we get to know our students and where they're from, what they've experienced, and, what country they might be from. And looking at this, it kind of shows how we are exposed to so many different aspects of technology, but even then, we're still struggling with a huge digital divide. So, how can we bridge the gap? Learn about your students and their families. What do they have access to? There's many different ways you can go about this. I know that we do a parent family night for our whole school, and then we do it for just our EL kids, which, like I said, our EL is kind of our biggest audience. And we learn, hey, do you have Wi-Fi at home? That's kind of in our one of our parent surveys. Do you have internet access? If not, we try to figure out opportunities to work with that. Create accommodations. You have a student, let's say, who has no internet access at home or cannot be on their computer whatsoever. I will say I have one situation with a student, and she has grown up in a very strict household where they are not allowed to any technology whatsoever. I mean, not a TV. They do everything very old school, and she's not allowed to use technology even for homework. So we accommodate her by putting a lot of things on paper. Teaching digital literacy is very important. A lot of people do not know how to work technology. I know that we find that kids know how to a lot more often, but like I said, if you have a kid who knows nothing about technology or has never seen any technology, they have no concept of digital literacy. And so it's very important that we teach that to them. We could create extra opportunities for students to have internet and technology access. So I actually, on my resources at the end of this presentation, you will see, but there is a website, there was an article from the New York Times, and they put out this whole article about two schools in America that had set up buses with Wi-Fi to give students the opportunity to complete their homework. And these two schools were one from Coachella, California, and the other one was amazingly from Huntsville, Alabama, which is just an hour north of where I'm from. And I thought that was actually really awesome. The fact that they set up their buses just so kids can, after school, get on those buses and get their homework done. Whether kids take advantage of that opportunity or not is one thing, but being able to offer that is so amazing. And this school was doing exactly that. And I think that's something that we could all learn from. The other thing we can do is advocate for races from your school. This is so important. If we're not fighting for our students, who is? And I think this is super important to be able to go to your school and advocate for resources to help grow their learning, to help grow their minds and their experiences. That's what school is for. And if we don't have what we need to do that, then we're not preparing them for the real world. So, while the divide causes many and many challenges, the idea of online learning also provides exciting opportunities. I know that that's kind of hard for us to see. I know that one thing that online learning has kind of shifted for us, especially with the digital divide, is since COVID, we have had so many, situations where everything has moved online instead of paper and pencil. I know that I have talked to teachers that I worked with about this project, actually, about this research. And I was talking to some veteran teachers that I teach with, and they were saying how before COVID, technology was something that was good to enhance learning, but now it seems like it hinders it some. So I know we kind of view it as a negative thing, but there are plenty of wonderful opportunities. It can be so time efficient. I am an English teacher. Let me tell you, I tried starting off the school year handwriting essays, and for one, it was hard to grade because of handwriting. and also it took up a lot more time than typing an essay. So while handwriting is so important, we would handwrite a rough draft and then we would type the final product. And it was very time efficient. It helped me with grading. Also, there were plenty of things out there that, if students completed it online, it grades it for you. I mean, I don't think computers are going to just completely take over our jobs, but they can be very helpful. It also provides audio and typing accommodations. I have an inclusion class with many IEPs and technology. Oh my goodness, I don't know how people did it without it. It really helps me hit a lot of those accommodations that are required in IEPs. Also allows for more research opportunities. Like for this project exactly, I was able to research and look at things that, yes, usually people would go to the library for, but it is something that has been super helpful, and you're just open to so many things out in the world, and it really helps grow your learning. So I have my 3 resources here for you to look at, and kind of while you're looking over those, I just want to say that I know that there is a huge digital divide. I know that we're the number one country for online learning, but that there's still a huge digital divide. I see it in my own community right here where I'm at, and I know that that can be very discouraging and very tough, but as educators, it is super important for us to be able to establish that digital literacy and opportunities for students to be able to use technology. This is something that they will absolutely have to have moving forward in the world, especially with as much as technology is advancing. So I think that even though it can kind of have a negative view, it is super important for us to kind of look at online learning, give those opportunities to students, advocate for those resources, do what we can to help them, but also still implement this in some sort of way. This project was super interesting to look into. It gave me wonderful ideas on how I could accommodate my own students with the digital divide. And overall, I felt like I learned a lot and got to look at other schools and see what they're doing as well. Thank you for watching.